I have for you a rather insane story. I realize that's probably the only reason you're here. If you are a repeat consumer of this channel, it's because you watched one insane story and you're like, this guy better have more insane stories. And trust me, it's hard to find them. That's why I'm on the run right now. Right? You got to keep your head on a swivel, your nose to the ground, to the grindstone to find these types of insane stories. Although this one I got from a single tweet from a guy named Jack Kinmer, who is somebody, a mutual who writes for Sport Bible. And this was the tweet. As I was doing all this, I'm following Copa Libertadores now. I'm cool. I'm hip. I'm in the know. This is Junior Santos. At age 23, he received a prophecy at a church that he'd one day travel the world playing football. So he quit his job as a bricklayer to go and play in Brazil's fourth tier, thousands of miles from home. Today, he scored in the Copa Libertadores final. Now, I shout out Jack here because I would not have known that this story existed unless Jack had tweeted about it. Now, I will also say that according to this article I found in Portuguese, please. I know I'm not that American, I promise. Calm down. Put the pitchforks down. Put out the torches. I know it's Portuguese. Okay. But I found this article in Portuguese. I don't think what Jack's saying is 100% right, but the story is still crazy interesting. And it's, honestly, who knows how reliable this one article is compared to Jack's tweet in the first place? And do the differences even really matter that much? And why am I talking so much about it? Because I want everybody to like me, and I don't want to offend anybody by saying that they were completely wrong, even though Jack wasn't completely wrong. At worst, he was only sort of wrong, but got the gist of the story right. So that's a good thing, right? That's more than I can do most of the time. Why am I distracted on this? Oh, yeah. Copa Libertadores final, this guy scored. Junior Santos scored the final goal in the Champions League of South America. So this is not the story of some bit part player. Not that being a professional footballer at any level is a joke, right? But this guy he's at the pinnacle of professional football in South America at this moment. Should I say 7 years on from when he was age 23 and receiving this prophecy at a church? Well, the actual story, I think, is even cooler than I initially read in Jack Canmer's bit. And that's the actual story that we're going to break down. But my number one takeaway from stories like this and any other story is that even in a place like Brazil, there are so many great footballers that just slip through the cracks. There are so many potentially great players that you just never know about, that they never even know that they could have been potentially great players. This is one of my biggest gripes about the United States and the way it develops players. I played on the sixth best high school team in the country. That's not me bragging. I was the backup goalkeeper. I didn't really play. I was there. I was a vibes hire. I was a locker room signing. I was like picking up Johnny Evans, and whenever he does play, you're like, oh, he's not really supposed to be out there, right? But it was, the vibes. I brought the vibes. One player from that team went on to play professionally. One, at any level. In fact, the vast majority of that team never played again once high school ended. They all just went to college or started a job, right? I believe it was 3 or 4 guys that ever went to play at any level after that. Any level at all. I mean, any level behind, I'm playing in a men's league, not even Sunday league, less organized than that. Co-ed in whatever city you're in, you're just kicking the ball around with friends like I do in New York now. Nobody else nobody did anything. And the one guy that's playing professionally had to chase it really aggressively in order to end up in a position where he was making a career out of it. And it's almost heartening to me that sort of stuff can happen in Brazil too, because it is clear, at least for a long time, that this Junior Santos guy was the real deal. Okay. Now, Junior Santos was a bricklayer. He was a bricklayer. He's from Bahia, basically a part of the country. And he moved to a place called Salvador when he was 20 years old. Okay, he moves there. He starts where he's a janitor. He's a bricklayer. And he was playing amateur football on the side. The article words it, obviously it's Google translated, said the sport was a form of leisure, but it also became profitable eventually. He said he never thought he could become a footballer. He never thought he could become a soccer player. It's just something that you saw on TV. But when he was in Salvador, he starts playing in these amateur leagues, and unlike, let's say in the United States or maybe in a lot of other places, these amateur leagues are paying 50 reais a game. I don't know how to say that, so I'm just going to go ahead and look it up.
Reais.
I don't know why it's a 40-second YouTube video just to do that. Riage? Riage? Okay, Riage. Riage! Obviously, it's Riage. You uncultured swine! How do you not know that? So apparently in these amateur leagues in Salvador, he starts to make a name for himself as somebody that's very good. And what runs through this story, and typically runs through all these types of stories, whether it be Gift Orban, the guy that ends up making it, out of Nigeria to go up and play. All of a sudden, he's playing in the French league, right? I made a video about him on the main channel called The Wonder Kid from Nowhere. Is these guys are just very good at every level that they're playing at. It should be obvious that they're great. So he starts charging to play, and basically every weekend he's making 300 riage per game, just playing in these amateur leagues. Playing in a championship, they said it's called the Intermunicipal, which is well known in Salvador. But he's still just working as a bricklayer. But he becomes this amateur football star, okay, over these couple of years after he moves from Bahia to Salvador. Right, and he's just balling out, and he's making, actually, it would turn out a lot more money than you could make professionally in Brazil, because apparently, if you move up to professional football in Brazil, at least the first professional contract that this guy, Junior Santos, is going to end up signing pays him 200 every time he wins. This guy was getting 300 every game. He said he actually quit his bricklaying job before he moved anywhere else. He joked about it. He jokes about it at some point in this article, which is on Globo, by the way, if you wanted to find the full thing. He jokes about it saying, well, I didn't really want to work anymore. I wanted to be lazy. And he started making up to, it says like 3,000 reais per month playing amateur football, right? And he was just not getting that kind of money from being a bricklayer, but he was still looking at, even though this was happening, because of the way the Brazilian league system is set up, he felt like being a professional was still something that was out of his reach. He was just enjoying being this kind of quasi-professional player in the amateur leagues. At least he didn't have to lay bricks anymore or be a janitor anymore. I get that's like the perk. His salary was 500 reais per game. And obviously playing at this amateur level, he's catching the eye of professional teams. But I'm not talking about necessarily the highest level professional teams. There's 4 national tiers in Brazil: Serie A, I'm going to say these wrong, Serie B, Serie C, and then Serie D, basically. And there's also these state leagues where you can go in and kind of play professionally for them. They were offering maybe 800 reais every 3 months, but remember, this guy's making 3,000 reais every month just playing these amateur matches, and so he wasn't going to go for it. But this is where that part from Jack Kenmare's tweet comes in. So he started to lean a little more into religion, and he says he was just in the church one day, and he received a prophecy in the church that I would travel the world playing soccer. And at that point, he basically just made up his mind to go for it. Where so many other players would have done this for a few years, then rolled their ankle, gone back to bricklaying, and that was it. He made a name for himself as this amateur player and then just decided to go for it. He was playing amateur, and somebody came up to him and said, dude, what team do you play for? Which I love the way that Google Translate actually translated that quote, because I can imagine that's exactly how that worked. He said he didn't play for a team. The guy told him he was wasting his time. And then he got this opportunity to go to Sao Paulo and just play kind of in the state league. Right, this isn't even playing in the top 4 divisions of Brazil, based off the way I understand it. Oh, this translation stuff's a little shaky. But he goes to Sao Paulo and starts playing. And this is where we get to maybe the most impressive part of this story for Junior Santos. As he gets there, he's got 2 little kids back in Bahia. He's still struggling. He's a boy from the country. He's in the city. He's getting paid 200 reais every time they win. So he's making a lot less money. He can't send money home. Everything seems to not be working out. And then he calls his dad. And this is just awesome. He calls his dad and he goes, hey, I kind of want to go home. And his dad goes, no, this is a great opportunity. You were right to pursue it. Like, he believed in him, basically. He said, you have this chance. And rightfully so. I mean, this guy had been an amazing player at the amateur level. But then his father drops a bar. He says, no, I'm coming home. And his dad looks him dead in his eye sockets over the phone. And he says, he told me if I went back, I would never speak to him again. That's a baller line, especially knowing where this ends up, right? With him scoring in a Copa Libertadores final. His dad on the phone goes, if you come back here, we're never talking again. You have to see this through. You have to go actually finish this out. And after that 1 year, he gets a trial with Ituano, who's in Serie D. So now he's playing in the national leagues. He passes the evaluation. He signs, he moves up to Serie B, he plays really well in the state leagues, he moves over to Japan for a little while to fulfill the philosophy, and then comes back to Botafogo in 2023. Now, honestly, the only sad part of this story is that in the middle of this process, his dad actually has a stroke and then died 2 years later. So his dad apparently never really got to see him become this professional footballer that he helped motivate. Junior Santos in this article gets emotional talking about him. But the story of Junior Santos, very unusual for Brazil, sounds very Jamie Vardy-esque. This is a guy that was an amateur league superstar, and this is the personal side of what was happening in the Copa Libertadores final with him. Because this guy did end up being able to travel the world to play football, played in Japan, and now he's back playing for, right now, the biggest club in Brazil. And they have a chance to do the double. And Junior Santos is an integral part of that. And honestly, I hope he gets to go play in Europe too, if that's something that he wants to do. Because this dude was laying bricks at the age of 22. And now he's, I think, 21, 22, I don't remember what it was. And now he's scoring goals in Copa Libertadores final in front of a packed, screaming house of fans, all dressed in black and white, because that was the color scheme of both teams, and it was really confusing.